Hello, 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 everyone. How's everyone doing today? We hope you all are doing great. I am Louise Hicks, your host of this uh, masterclass boot camp, reclaiming our legacy as Black queens. And we have had a most enjoyable week thus far, starting off Sunday, day one, where we talked about life management. And we proceeded from there into day two, day three. And now we're in day four. We're going to wrap it up tomorrow and we're going to crown a queen. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and share and just do make sure everyone has their phones on mute, please. And I'm going to go ahead and share so that we can get started here. All right. Again, hello, everyone. Thank you all for being so supportive and coming in every day because we know everyone has a busy schedule, and I know some people are not able to come in every day. And I've had some text messages and emails, and we had a special guest that was going to come in today. However, she is ill. She was ill yesterday, and she didn't think it would be in her best interest to come in today. And I understand that because yesterday was about mental health and physical health, and we have to take care of ourselves. So that is very important. But anyhow, moving forward, this is our Vision on Board 2024 Part 2, an Aim to Purpose Series Masterclass 5-day boot camp presented by yours truly here, Louise Hicks of L. Hicks Consulting Services, LLC. And we are going to move into, and just every day we'd like to kind of just go through since it's each day, and just in case someone happens to click on this day, they will have a little background information as to what has transpired on a day-by-day basis. And we know we started the master class back in February for Black History Month, February 18th to be exact, where we gave an overview of our Vision on Board Part 2, Reclaiming Our Legacy as Black Queens. And the reason we're calling it Part 2 is because this started a few months ago with Vision on Board Part 1, where we actually had a virtual vision board where we had various business owners and children as well. Their children could come in, and we did vision boards and shared them. We followed up and we shared them, and it was great. We had a great turnout as well, and it was an event, bright event. So here we go. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We wish to thank everyone for joining with us today and sharing this journey with us as we celebrate Women's History Month. And this, as I said, is a 5-day boot camp. We will end it tomorrow, which is Thursday. We will celebrate our journey together. And we are featuring our special guest, Cheryl Cross, the CEO, MBA and BS of Consultant Proficiency Resources, CPR LLC, and Linnell Williams of Life Management Group. And these ladies have been, oh, I don't know if words can really describe how these have been phenomenal. Wow. And that's women of wisdom. And I am the mad Black woman. And that's MAD, motivated and determined. That's who I am, the mad Black woman. And I think they're turning mad as well because we have had a ball these past 3 days, and we're going to have a blast today. And we thank you all for coming in and joining us. It's been great. So I always like to start off with these two scriptures. Every day we've shared them. 3 John 2:2. Beloved, I pray that in every way you may succeed and prosper and be in good health, just as I know your soul prospers. And 2 Timothy, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And notice that power comes before love in this scripture. Because if you don't have power, what can you do? And that's why a lot of us in the Black community struggle because we don't have the power that we should have. However, with Black social media up and coming, we are gaining that power and we are empowering ourselves. And I always tell everyone your power lies within you. Let it loose based on your GPS. That's that God powered system that guides us on a daily basis because your destiny is your command within that God powered system that allows you to take the steps necessary for you to elevate yourself. And that's why I started my podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I do this every Sunday. Sometimes I come in during the week because I want us to be empowered, structured as a family unit. We need to get back to that because we've lost so much because of the oppressors and white supremacy. And we're going to introduce ourselves. Again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host, and this vision had come to me years ago. However, it wasn't time for me to put it into effect until now because I came across, we reunited, Linnell Williams and myself. We had met each other in an event several years ago, maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And she said she was looking through something and saw this stack of cards and decided to look through them. And there, lo and behold, was my name. And she remembered me. And she called me and we connected. And I was so happy because of her life management group that I became a part of. And we had a great celebration. I believe it was in September when she had this great networking event out in Dallas. And it was amazing. All the phenomenal queens that were there to celebrate this newly found journey for Linnell. And I am a business consultant. I'm a life coach. I am a motivational speaker, a vision board facilitator, as I've already shared with you. I'm a YouTube content. My YouTube channel is aimed, AIMED, the number 2, Purpose Radio. And I will put it in the chat so that if you could go be sure, this is all YouTube, just subscribe and go to my website, www.louisehicks.com, and it will share with you all of my social media outlets, being LinkedIn, Twitter, well, X now, formerly known as Twitter, as well as LinkedIn, and the other one, Instagram. And of course, I'm on Facebook as well. I have multiple pages on Facebook and groups. So join us in some of those groups because we share great information. And with that said, I'm an award-winning author, and which I chronicles the lifestyle of the challenges we had when my 14-year-old son was stricken with cancer and went on to uh, indulge himself in drug addiction. And it still is a challenge. He's 42 and blessed to be here, and I'm his conservator, which I'm so happy about it. And I've practiced law myself. I've done real estate because I was a realtor, and I love law, in fact. And I've won all my cases. And as a matter of fact, and I'm working on a few other books, nonfiction and fiction. And with that said, I'm going to, and I have a bachelor's in social work as well. So I guess I have a knack for people. I love working with people. So, Sister Queen Linnell, can you go ahead and give a little overview of who you are?
Okay, I am Linnell Williams, and again, I'm a Jenny, so I'm going to be brief because I have so many things that I am qualified and certified to do. But I would say my passion, my biggest passion, is what I do as a business aside from the life management group would be the fashion design and image creator consultant business that I have. So currently, I'm in the process of finishing up a book, and it is entitled how to transform your mindset and your image through fashion. So that's really informative and it's exciting, and you're going to be glad to get it when it comes out. With that, I have about 15 years in banking. I am a customer service admin queen. And another passion of mine is biblical studies. So that's my story. And I'm
And you
sticking.
sticking with it, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much. You've done so much. I mean, it's amazing, and you are an amazing,
Mhm.
phenomenal queen.
Thank
And
you.
now we're gonna have our next phenomenal queen, Sister Cheryl Cross, to share with us her journey.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister Louise. And again, another day. Happy Wednesday to everyone. And at CPR, we call this Wellness Wednesday in light of our session we had yesterday. So it's always a distinct pleasure to be amongst the creme de la creme. And in this case, you phenomenal women indeed, starting off with what Sister Louise referred to as queens. I'm not too comfortable with that, but I'll go with women of wisdom. And she would say, that Black woman, motivated and determined. So because today we're going to look at finance, I'm going to give you my business background. And that is, I've pursued my business degree, grad degree, as well as post-grad training. I'm currently hold the status of a doctoral candidate. And I enjoy learning. I believe curiosity is currency. Upon leaving my corporate career, where I spent almost 25 years in corporate healthcare, the business of healthcare, because it is a business, everything is a business. What I've come to learn, bottom line, when I came full circle, is everything is a business. Running your family, like Sister Louise alluded to during, I believe, our life management session, as a mom, you have to be the CFO in charge, the CEO in charge, and everything in between. And at the end of the day, we hope that you move away from not seeing currency and money as an obstacle. And when I say you, I don't necessarily mean those present here. I'm talking about those who may bump into this video days, weeks from now. And it's important to know that money is your friend. We're going to provide the finance one-on-one of financial literacy, which is money. I don't want to keep it too basic, but we'll provide you with enough information. We have a very diverse group of individuals. And if I make it too ABC, then it will be challenging for those who are part of this wonderful presentation. So I'm going to try to tap into what thus says the professor back in the day and tie it up to where we are today. And then there's also historical perspective in terms of who we used to be. If you consider the Hamitic nations, the various empires, including the Mali Empire and ancient Egypt, when it was a little bit more melanated, as well as Timbuktu. And then we have to look at the Israelite community where we prospered. So we shouldn't be shy of financial literacy. We shouldn't be shy of economics, community development. We also did it here. You know, after slavery, we've built up our communities. And I believe I stated this in our masterclass in February. As we build up, here comes the enemy, broke it down, burnt it down, repeat, repeat, repeat. We have been doing this a while. And I think there might be some level of mental exhaustion, but we too shall rise and continue to push forward. So today we're going to devote a little bit of ABC 101. It's about bringing us back to who we were as a community, as a nation. And hopefully we could use that, for those of us who are entrepreneurs, use that to then tap into your brain power as you also take your business to the next level. So based on that, I am the CEO of Consultant Proficiency Resources, and the core of my company is that we help you resolve your how-to. If you want to start a business, how to start a business. If you want to expand your business, how to reinvigorate your business. And if you want to, hopefully not to resuscitate your business, if it's kind of on the downcline, we would assist with that as well. But either which way, we're about problem solving and using creativity, brain power to take your company to the next levels. Thank you very much for your time.
I love that. That's right. I love the part where you said we all have businesses, because if you're running a home, believe me, that's a big business. It's pretty dynamic. So just to give a little recap, we're just going to run through each one of these slides pretty quickly, because we want, if someone were to start from day 4, they will have a recap of what went on prior, and they can go back and see all the other days on Aim to Purpose radio channel on YouTube. Anyhow, life management day 1. And as we all know, life is an evolutionary journey. And day 1, we talked about the theme, this is your life, because we're going to evolve together. That's our goal. We're going to evolve together. And also, this is the other scripture that I love about Proverbs, because that's what we're doing here. Proverbs 27:17. We are as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And in this case, women of wisdom, we're sharpening each other's tools, because I know I'm learning a lot each day. So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about the giveaways, because we've already done some giveaways. I know Linnell gave away a head wrap, I believe. Cheryl gave away some mugs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I know Barbara won, and there were some other women of wisdom that won as well. So, and we're going to be crowning a Black Legacy Queen on tomorrow, Thursday, day 5. And that will be based on the votes from the participants, because we're going to ask the question. And I always put this disclaimer out now, because it's not going to be $2 million given away, but we're going to pretend it's going to be play $2 million. But the question is going to be, you just received $2 million in reparations. So what are you going to do with it? And we're going to have the participants tomorrow to vote as to who gives the answer that's most relevant to financial matters. That's what we're looking for. The answer that's most relevant to financial matters and financial literacy. So you've had the whole week to think about this, because we share it every day, and the person with the most votes will be the grand prize winner, who will get this book from me. This is my giveaway, The Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. And you're going to get a crown. You're going to actually get a physical crown. It's not going to be the one that's here on the screen, but you will get a crown. And as you see, I've been wearing my crown every day as Queen Louise, and we thank you all for coming into our queendom. So you will get the book, and you will get a tiara, because we're going to crown you as the Black Legacy Queen in this award tomorrow. And for those who answer other questions, the runner-ups, we have something for you too. We're not going to leave you out, because I'm a firm believer in reading opens the mind to great possibilities and opportunities. And I've loved to read since I was 2, probably. I used to love to read, and I still do. So we're going to give away these books to the runner-ups, and whoever gets the next vote, the next vote, the next vote, the next vote, you will get to choose. The first runner-up will get to choose from these 4 books, which will be The Miseducation of the Negro by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who, as you all most likely know, is the founder of Black History Month that we celebrated last month. And then we're going to give away Black Labor, White Wealth by Dr. Claude Anderson, very dynamic book. And also, if you have an opportunity, pick up Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, because that's another powerful book by Dr. Claude Anderson. And my book, yours truly, Louise Hicks, my award-winning book, A Hill to Climb, A Teenager's Battle with Cancer, Depression, and Drug Addiction, where I chronicle the challenges that my son faced when he was 14 and diagnosed with a rare bone cancer, now being 42. So he's been blessed and still under my conservatorship due to his challenges and so forth. And this book is not it's uplifting actually. We went through challenges, but it's uplifting. And then the last but not least book is The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power by Dr. Boyce Watkins. Going to give that one away as well. So be prepared. Get that question answered and do not do more than 3 to 5 sentences, please. We just want you to give a brief summary of what you're going to do with your $2 million. That the disclaimer is you might get it one day, the real money, we don't know because we do deserve reparations, but this is a disclaimer that you're not really going to get $2 million from us. And I always bring this up because the strength of the Black family, we know that the father figure, who is the protector, the provider, the preparer, the father is the strength of the family, the nucleus. We have to look at the nucleus of the family. And when you have that father figure in there that is doing what he's supposed to do, you're going to have a stronger family unit. And that helpmate, the mother, comes into a very significant role because she's the nurturer and the helpmate. And when they blend together in harmony, you're going to have the strength of the family. As you can see, the hand being held by the father and that tight grip showing the strength. And that's what we're looking to. We're looking to make sure our kings and queens and our prince and princesses, that they are grounded in a God-guided foundation. And that's how we bring our structure together for our family. And that's what we're working on every day. And day one, the life management, we went through royalty. Linnell was dynamic in presenting, and Cheryl and I gave some information as well on the family and parenting. Health is wealth, and Cheryl shared that actually yesterday because we didn't get to it on the first day in the way that she wanted to get into it. So she gave us a more in-depth look at health equals wealth yesterday. And then we briefly talked about retirement, but we're going to talk a little bit more about retirement because we're talking about financial matters. And if you don't have money, you're going to be a little bit in trouble. And I love the way Linnell brought it in because back in February for Black History Month, she gave all the various generations 1 through 7 and talked about all of them, baby boomers and Gen Xers and the silent and GIs. I can't name them all, but she can. And how we've been lied to. She really brought that more in depth. We have been lied to and talked about the identity of our hidden nations. So that was a very dynamic day. And then day 2, we talked about the Great Divide, the disconnect, where we shared Dr. George Fraser on how he said if we connect those dots, we could tie up lions. And that is so true. We have to come together and unify. And how Dr. Joy DeGruy brought it to us on day 1, how we connect together in unity and we can dispel a lot of these myths that's brought about us as Black people, and how it's so many hidden. Well, they're trying to hide a lot of stuff about us, but we know we're learning the truth now. And that is really, really coming together, and is causing us to come together as Black people, especially with positive social media that's out. So I'm just grateful for what was brought on day 2 about the Great Divide. That was our theme, and the disconnect. And we went on to talk about the recap, and I just gave you the recap. So, and I want to say every day, you're beautiful, queen. You're never alone. You are strong. You're always loved, and we are the chosen. So, WOW, wow, women of wisdom, this is your life. And then we moved into day 2, the relationships, and that's when we talked about the woke. We talked about that, and I've already given you some information about day 2, the love, self-love, and parenting and how important it is for us to really understand those relationships. Everything is a relationship, really, whether it's work, your home with children, your husband, your partner, your frenemies, your business. It's all about relationships. And we have to watch out for all the junk that comes into play because we know with social media, there's so much junk out there that keeps us uh, enslaved, as Dr. Miles Monroe brought out, how we need to unslave ourselves because we're enslaved in the mind. And I remember uh, Sister Cheryl talking about it just a little while ago when she was introducing herself, how we have to be mindful what we put in our brain, that brain power. That's so important. And then day 3, yesterday was so awesome because we talked about the renewing of the mind and how mental health is so important. And we have to watch because we don't want to be burned out. So we really got to have that renewing of the mind. We talked about how the Great Divide, and I shared these books on the day that we talked about how we have been lied to and we have to reject the lie. And I talked about how Kyrie Irving, how he was so much criticized because he merely shared the Hebrews to Negroes documentary. And it brought out so many lies. And also Tariq Nasheed on Hidden Colors, how Hidden Colors depicts these documentaries, and I have all of them, and I have the books as well. So we have to do our due diligence and read more because they often say about us, we don't read enough and we need to read more because that's how we learn. And then on mental health, yesterday I shared a video from Denise Francis, a TED Talk, and she gave just an amazing talk about mental health and how we need to take care of ourselves. And then after we shared that, Sister Cheryl came in and just brought it on home about uh, the burnout and gave us so much information on how and why we need to take care of ourselves because mental health does matter. And we talked about briefly on the queens that we are and how this is a lifeline for us to take care of ourselves. And I shared this poem in which I'm not going to share it. What you have to realize, just to sum it up, that you are enough and that you loved. And we talked about Malcolm X, how the oppressors, because the oppressors work on our psychology, our psychological, our psyche, I should say. So we have to watch out for what we're putting in our minds every day. And that's so important. So that's why I shared this video, the psychological warfare that's against us. And then I shared this little chart here, and we'll get more into this as we evolve into future coming back in and talking more in depth about what's going on. And this brings us to day 4, where we're going to talk about economic empowerment and how we're going to continue to evolve together because life is an evolutionary journey. And I thank you all again for sharing this journey with us. And just a brief recap, I like to put a slide in every day to just kind of give a summary recap of what's going on. And yesterday was about healing and renewing of the mind. And as we can see, Black mental health does matter, but a lot of us are afraid. We have that fear factor. We don't want to go and get therapy. And this is from the young to the old, because I think I mentioned one of the days about the suicide among young people, young Black people. It has increased. And that's something we need to be conscientious about, is healing our minds, eating the proper foods, your body, mind, soul, and spirit. We have to free our minds up on a daily basis and be sure to I know I'm a prayerful person. I pray throughout the day, every day. And it helps me to free that mind and get my mind together. So we had such a great time yesterday talking about healing and the renewing of the mind. And it was just a great day for day 3. So we're going to get into day 4 now with financial matters. And we're going to start this off about financial literacy. And like I said, we had a special guest plan. However, she could not be in, but we know enough about finances. I know I do, where I can share some great opportunities with you. And well, that's what we're all about, sharpening each other's tools. So with that said, take it away, Sister Cheryl, the woman, the wow woman, women of wisdom. She's a woman of wisdom.
Yes, love it. Wow, 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 indeed. Thank you so much for the summary. I think it's important that for individuals that, again, come in or missed out on a prior day, it's always great to give them a summary. So today's session, at least my part, I'm going to focus on Finance 101, or really financial literacy within our communities. During the 5-day boot camp, we hope you use the time to self-reflect. And from day 1, I indicated that you move.
Second, Sister Cheryl, I'm sorry. Before you start, let me share the video. And that's something I missed. I know, I apologize for that.
That's
but
okay.
Let me share this video. That's what I meant to do before we get started. So I like to share one with you every day. So here we go. And I think he might have said a little bad word once or twice, but it's very informative. Let's say that. So I'm going to make sure I get this right today. Here we go.
No type of roadmap at all for future generations. And you wonder why everybody want to be a gangster, a rapper, and an athlete. You wonder why everybody wants to be a gangster, a rapper, and an athlete. What else are they going to do? European Jews have a 1,000-year plan. Chinese got a 2,000-year plan. Anglo-Saxons got a 500-year plan. Arabs got a 250-year plan, at least. At least. They're thinking about their great-grandchildren's great-grandchildren. They're already talking about who's going to rule the country, who's going to be the leaders of the race 50 years from now, 25 years from now. And black people are on their knees praying to a white Jesus, begging for a redeemer. Black people are on their knees praying to a white Jesus, begging for a deliverer. Black people are on their knees praying to a white Jesus, asking for heaven to send them somebody who's going to help them solve their problems. We're the only group. I'm not talking about your children, brother. There you go with ego and selfishness. I did not say you did not have a plan for the children in your house. I did not say you did not have a plan for the children in your household. I did not say you did not have a plan for the children who live under your roof. I said we. I know it's hard for you self-hating Negropeans to think in terms of race first. I know this. The former slave is almost unable to think in terms of race. I understand it's hard for a people who've been told for 500 years that being a black African is the worst curse in human existence. I know this is what you believe. The next thing that separates Africans from everybody else is the worship of money and materialism. We are a laughing stock in this country because we worship money and materialism. Nobody else worships money and materialism. Black people have single-handedly made billionaires out of white manufacturing companies. Single-handedly, Louis Vuitton. Single-handedly, Gucci. Single-handedly, all these companies that we worship who don't even like black people. Worshiping, look at the gangster rappers. Look at these goofy-ass gangster rappers who get on the video waving stacks of cash, When is the last time you seen a white musician get on the video and wave stacks of cash? When's the last time you seen a Chinese musician get on a video and wave stacks of cash? When is the last time you seen a European Jewish musician get on a video and wave stacks and stacks and stacks of money? Who does that except black folks? The white man don't worship money and materialism. White man worship power. Chinese don't worship money and materialism. Chinese worship power. Arabs don't worship money and materialism. Arabs worship power. European Jews don't worship money and materialism. European Jews worship power. And the Negro worships the money the white man makes and the materialism that the white man sells. And you wonder why we get no respect.
And I want to, if in case some of you may not be aware of who that is, that's Dr. Umar Johnson. And I have seen him in person. Some people may, there are people who, he's building a school, by the way, in, I forgot the name of the state that he's in, but I went to see him and I got this book. And this is called Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War for Dealing with America's Public and Charter Schools by Dr. Umar Ifantunde. And he's a psychologist and he's an educator. And he does deliver some very powerful messages. And if you think about it, when I told you about that the scripture that I really love, 2 Timothy 1:7, where it says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power. And notice that power comes first. So I've always said to everybody, we need to flip the script because we're the only people, like he said, we are very materialistic. We spend our money. We have almost $2 trillion running through our hands every year, and we don't spend our money wisely. So power is the first element on that scripture, 2 Timothy 1:7, and then love, and then a sound mind. So we have to learn to seek power as well, because that's how we are going to connect our dots and come together by uniting in power. So I do apologize, Sister Cheryl, about having that, but it slipped my mind on my video.
It was certainly worth it. I'm almost speechless now. Wow. Well, I've listened to Dr. Umar for a while, and regardless of whether you love him or hate him, he does provide he drops some nuggets, food for thought. Before going into my presentation, just a couple of things I would like to highlight. Part of the challenge that we have in our community, those who idolize money, and I was going to mention a little bit about that before getting into it, but the idea is it's by design, right? You get kids from the hood. First of all, you put them in the hood, then you pick up one or two, say you're special, give them $1 million, $500,000, a house, 10 cars, it's all rented. Then they go on television, they assume an identity, and then you have younger kids looking on thinking that's the way you make it. And we could say that for sports, singers, and so the music industry and the sports industry. And then everything else is kind of like, off the top. So hence the reason for us coming together. Another point he mentioned was the point of us not coming together. And one of the reasons we initially spoke about, Sister Louise, is about collaboration, partnership, hence the reason for CPR's Level Up series, understanding that we do have potential. It's up to us to seek it, unlock it, and together as a collective, the me and I and mine story, and I got to get mine, it doesn't hold water. We cannot win when we attempt to proceed as an individual. Now, we have a couple of us who have been given that level of authority in politics, wherever. And again, the minute we misstep, we are brought down. So for a long, long time, I've seen exactly what that looks like. And the other part I would like to say is that with the colonizers, we unfortunately, somewhere along the line where we fell asleep, we traded our gold and precious metal for paper. And to this day, we'll still trade our gold and silver, uranium and cobalt and tin, right? For paper dollars. And that always bugged my mind. That's absolutely incredible from my perspective. And hence the reason you'll always hear me continue to praise the likes of Millennium Captain Ibrahim Traore from Burkina Faso, because he woke up, he said, enough is enough, not in my country, right? My country doesn't represent all of Africa, but I'm going to make a difference. And he's doing that. And he's doing it from a servitude level where he's focusing on his people, because he realized that his people were sold out like most of the African nations. So at the end of the day, he has some wonderful points, and that would be like a whole other boot camp in and of itself. So, but thank you for sharing that video. I just want to get into it, and I'm going to fast forward the slide, understanding what Dr. Umar indicated. And for us, it's not really the elephant in the room, right? But if you go to a conference and you're like the only melanated person there, it's almost like a secret where, okay, this Black person made it in, or 2 or 3, but that's about it, right? And a lot of it comes down to, in terms of who we are, our identity, and what we do, and what we do in our childhood that prepares us for now. Sister Linnell spoke about her educating her kids very early about the banking industry. When she found out the secret, she brought it home, and she was able to better prepare her girls for what's to come. But not all of us had moms in the banking industry. So it behooves us, even if you didn't get it at home as a young adult, when you go out there amongst the different groups, it behooves you to learn that system. At the same time, still understand when you come home, it's still a collective. It's still a village overall. So the racial wealth gap that exists today is grounded intentionally in centuries of historical injustices, systematic inequality, employment discrimination. Sister Louise, you spoke about several cases, someone not as well-versed and competent and in terms of years of training of you, but all of a sudden they wanted you to train him for a managerial position, right? That's the story of many of us when we work in corporate or even government. That happened to me many a times when working in government as well. And then we have to remember Black Wall Street, so the violence in our communities. And when they say pull up our bootstrap, we've done that thousands of times, and yet they burn us down again. But we get back up again, right? Because we remember the scripture that a just man rises 7 times. You fall and you rise up again. So that's important to put in perspective. The economic disparity based on wages and promotion practices are still at a core today in the 21st century. And while our kids, generation next, I've heard nieces and nephews say, no, everyone is equal and everyone lives in one big harmony. And I just laid out there for my nieces and nephews. I say, one day the ball is going to drop and you're going to see that's not true. So I want to prepare you. In the meantime, enjoy your way to success as you climb the corporate ladder and you think everyone is great. Yeah, but there's a surprise waiting behind door 2. And we'll continue to keep you lifted up in prayer. Understand that a white American with a high school diploma can indeed be your manager and be the executive director, while the Black American with years of training, 101 certificates, will remain underpaid and always will be questioned, right? And again, if you're a trooper like Sister Louise, you will file a lawsuit and go through the court system and win your case, but that's just 1 in 1,000,001. Some scholars maintain that closing the racial wealth gap is such a complex issue with no one-size-fits-all solution. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, it's not, right? I say that it's very simple when you move away unfair laws, policies, regs on the books, the whole 9 yards, the whole systematic shebang. We can then have not just equality, but we're talking about equity. Because for us to get back to where we used to be, we're looking at equity and not necessarily equality. So no, it's not that complex. If you place this here, you can certainly reverse it. So today we're going to talk about financial literacy is important. And again, it might be fundamental for this group, but for anyone coming on board, looking at this video weeks, maybe days, years to come, understanding what financial literacy look like for us in our community is the ability to understand and make use of a variety of financial skills. And that could be banking, budgeting, handling debt and credit. I've heard a lot of young people say, I hate math. And I'm like, no, you must love math. You must love your numbers. You must know your tables and make a whole song out of it, right? You must know your percentages, right? You need to know what a discount is and what it looks like. It's something you're going to need for the rest of your life. So it's important that you don't shy away from numbers. And it's important as parents, of course, we instill in our kids. And if we were fearful of numbers, don't instill that fear into our kids. You want to break that mold, right? And you do so by, even if you don't know, there's so many different programs and platforms online, like Khan Academy, that could help train your kids so they can find that love. My sister's the math teacher. I'm not sure if she's on today. She was on yesterday, Sister Betty. And as a math teacher, she's so passionate about teaching their young minds about numbers and getting the kids to grow and love and embrace math. Because at one point in time, we've had many individuals, many scholars who are responsible for all these mathematical equations, right? And all the engineering that we see today that were adopted by our colonizers. We know those great minds that were once, if you want to say Hamites, some may say Israelites, it depends on your perspective, but we know they were stolen by the colonizers, and now we have a different type of history, right? Some may say history was plagiarized, that's a whole different story, a whole different boot camp. But the key thing in understanding financial literacy is creating and sticking to a budget. This requires discipline. If you're a woman of faith, I would say that if you're a disciple of Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ the Messiah, we're looking at his disciples, you have to be disciplined. You have to have a certain aura of sticking to it and getting to it, right? So that's a requirement. Track your spending. That's very important. Don't make it rain, right? And you're not at the dance hall. Don't do that, right? Make sure you keep track every penny, every dollar. Track your expenses. And again, when I say this, even if you're a business owner and you're 1 to 5 years within business, the same process in terms of business financial literacy apply, because you have to track your spending. You have to create and stick to a budget in terms of what you process for fiscal year or your calendar year. Of course, you want to save. Credit card, we are working and living in a debt credit system. And you can run away from it. If you don't, you're not going to get credit. So you have to know how to work within and understand that you go process in a way that you be part of the credit system without being drowned by the credit system, right? Many a times our people are drowning in credit. And this really happens in high school and especially college. By the first 2 or 3 years, our young people are drowning in credit. And I remember when I was in college, the campuses were plagued, what I call with predators, financial predators, hoping that you will fill out an application, not knowing what you're doing. You have an interest rate of 25, 30%. You spend it, you made it rain during your weekends after a final or midterm. And then by the time you come home for, then was the Christmas holidays or summer, you realize you have thousands of dollars in debt, right? So before your kids go off to school, you need to certainly speak to them about that. Other types of debt, of course, includes the school loan. We heard from the Biden-Harris administration that they just instituted another break for student loans, especially those who are in the profession of teaching, I believe medicine, police and fire department primarily. So if you have any relative, young or old, within that category that have a school debt, please be sure to follow up with your tax personnel. And then part of financial literacy, the importance of emergency funds. We had Sister Linnell speak about, or wanted us to address the importance of retirement and going towards retirement. The unexpected happens, like an unexpected child, like the unexpected death of a spouse, like the unexpected death of one parent, then you have to take that parent in, right? The unexpected hurt and debilitation of a child that you have to take care of. The unexpected happen, and regardless of how much you plan for your future in terms of your career, in order to start making six figures and plus, it's a few years. And even in the field of medicine, one of the things we have advised our future doctors, right? They have $500,000-$600,000 in debt. Be mindful and take out an insurance in the event you become ill, or in the event you fall asleep at the wheel because you're so exhausted and burnt out from your long hours. You're still covered. There's coverage, right? Because you just don't know. So you have to be prepared. That emergency fund sets up somewhat as a buffer. And of course, our favorite, where Sister Louise is going to walk us through, is to plan for retirement. But this is the kicker. You need to plan for retirement at any age. I think as soon as you turn 16, start planning for retirement. It is never too early. At your very first job, you start putting your pennies away. And trust me when I say interest will accrue and you'll be moving to the next level. So it's never don't wait until you're 55. Don't wait until you're 35, 45. Plan now, regardless of your age. Now, how to create a budget. One of the things we subscribe to, and again, I'm looking at personal and professional in terms of having your own company. When we consider budgeting, we look at a 50-20-30 budget rule. Spending 50% on needs, not wants, needs, right? 20% on savings, about 30% on wants, right? Because you have to live a little. Tomorrow is not promised. And for business owner, yes, you still have to apply that principle, but apply it based on your business plan. Every business owner should have a business plan. Part of that business plan, you should project within your business timeline, tactical, strategic goals, and part of it is that budget. And you want to break it down based on whatever that original business plan looks like. So budgeting starts with tracking how much money, again, you receive coming in and money you're spending throughout that month. And you can look at it on a monthly level, since most of us are considering the end of month, right? Money's going out. Most bills come in monthly. And therefore you have to pay it monthly, like your mortgage, like your cell phone bill, like your cable bill. Sometimes the water bill is every 2 or 3 months, so it varies. So consider your income, consider your expenses, and your expenses are divided between fixed. That's like your mortgage, your rent. It never changes unless there's a rent hike. And then you have discretionary income, maybe going to a restaurant, hanging out with your friends, vacations. We still must take vacation. To me, that's a need, because your mental health, your physical health is at stake. So though some may call it discretionary, I would go on the record and say, no, it is not discretionary to the point that it's an other. I would put it in terms of, you could have your vacation club and put money every pay period in that vacation club to ensure that you and your family have that vacation, whether it's every 6 months, every year, whatever that will be. Of course, you have your savings. And once you have that divided, you want to subtract your total expenses for that month from your total income. And that income could be passive income. It could be your paycheck. It could be any additional money you receive, all of it. Any money's coming in. It could be alimony, child support. That's all income. And when you do your income tax, Uncle Sam considers it income. So add all of that as your money coming in, and you will know exactly what you're spending and what your standard of living should be if you're trying to budget. I want to talk a little bit about credit cards. There are credit cards and debit cards. And again, this might be foundational for most of us. But for the new listener, it's important to know that if you're trying to build your business credit, the credit card is the more important of the two, but they both hold a role. Your debit card takes money directly out of your checking account, but you have to have money in there, right? The credit card, you don't necessarily have to have money, but the rule of thumb, I say, make sure you have money because the goal is you want to pay it back, right? Like American Express, back in the day when I had my first American Express card, I think it was $50 or $100 the max. No, $500 limit spending. And the goal is you have to spend within that means, but with American Express, then you have to pay it back at the end of the month, whatever that is. So the goal is to make sure you have money. If you don't have the money, don't live up to the Joneses. Don't say, well, I got to get this. I got to get this Calvin. I got to get, no, you got to live it between your means. I've heard one individual on TED Talk. He said the divide between the rich and the poor is that the poor is pretending to be rich and the rich really just doesn't care. They're just looking at their numbers on the stock market, right? India jeans by the pool or India swim trunks by the pool. Right? They are not necessarily dressing in Louis Vuitton and all of that designer names. That's a trap for our community. And it's important that we understand that. Now, in credit cards, it's important because, again, we are working and living in the United States. It's kind of a credit debt system. So you have to build your credit. If you don't show that in good faith that you could pay back whatever that is, as you advance in life, if you have a business, they're going to look at your personal history before considering giving you a business credit card and then a business loan, right? Even if you have an angel investor or a venture capitalist, they can still ask for your personal history, your credit history, and or prior. If you're in business 5 to 10 years, they might mainly focus on the business. But if you're new 1, 5, 6, 7 years, they will certainly be considering your personal history as well. So your credit cards are very important. And one of the other rule of thumbs I've learned very early on is do not open more than you need to. If you're, for your personal credit card, you should have maybe one, like an American Express Discover card, and maybe another card. Excuse me 1 second. And so you have at least 2 cards, 3 max. But again, please ensure you don't become drowned in credit. And we were told that once you open that card, the biggest injustice, well, the next biggest injustice really, that you can really wreak havoc on your own credit history, financial history, is if you close down that card, right? That's a ding. So if you open it, keep it open, but we hope that as mothers and aunts and loved ones, we can work with our young people to let them know the best ones to open, because once you keep it open, once you open it, the goal is keep it open. If you close and open, it's also a ding on your personal credit and your score as well. We're going to jump a little bit into of course, the goal is to pay off any high costs. One of the things I've come to learn with my brief stint in banking, of course, coming from business school, I had to spend a few weeks in banking and it was a very short stint. But one of the things I learned about banking, aside knowing that I hate banking, is the fact that the banks, traditional banks, they are loyal to their stockholders, shareholders. And I'm sure if many of you might be aware that a lot of banks have closed within the past 2 or 3 years, a lot 2023, right? And when someone went to their door, they realized the bank was closed. There's a big sign out of business, closed, the whole 9 yards, and they couldn't get their money. So the secret here is the larger banks, if you invest and you deposited your money in a checking and savings account, if, God forbid, when that time comes, they are first going to ensure that their stockholders, stakeholders, shareholders are paid first before you and I, the little guys, right? So my preference would be the credit unions. And why is that? Because the credit union they are more loyal to the little guys. So again, we've already made our mark. If we are older than, let's say 25, 30, right? We already made our mistakes. So it may not be for you, but take the steps to the younger ones. And it's the same thing for the business. When I open my business account, business checking account, I open it with a credit union to begin with. And I'm going to continue to move that way because the banks look a little bit shaky right now. It's like, the fat lady's getting ready to sing. So it's like flying the throat, right? And every day you can hear, well, maybe JP Morgan, maybe this, maybe that. So just be mindful. Again, we have already made our mistakes, but be mindful and be sure to pass that tip along to the younger ones. The goal here is always to borrow smart. Because we're in a debt-driven or credit-based system, there's no way to get around that. I know that the lenders are focused on telling you the maximum. So my niece was telling me a story in terms of her student loan. When she was taking it out, the loan person was saying, well, the max is like, let's just say the max was 5,000 and she wanted just 2,000 for the semester. So the person is saying, well, the max is 5,000, right? By the time she left, that extra 3,000 quickly became 6,000, right? So unfortunately, there's a level of dishonesty. That's why I don't like banking, right? There are lies that go along with it. And if you don't know, they will easily lure you in thinking, free money, girls, I got you. We're going to go to a party. Even if it's not for party, the point is, if you don't need it, don't purchase it. And if you can't afford to pay it back based on your current system, don't go for the higher loan rate. Stick with your original plan. It's not free money, right? That's what's going to drown you in debt. Now, I have a couple of just quick statements based on our generational divide and what you should be doing in different age groups. So if you're Generation Next, I call Generation Z or the I generation, in your 20s, start saving at least 10% of your gross salary ASAP if you have not been doing it. And if you started, double up. That means you could afford it. So that means if you could do 20% or even 15%, that would be great. If you wait until your 30s to get serious about this, you will likely need to save 20% more of your salary to reach your retirement. So we encourage you, like we said, think about retirement now. Don't pass up a workplace retirement saving bonus. Don't think, well, I'm young, I don't need it. When I started right after undergrad, I took the first, what I called then was TIAA. And when we did the masterclass, I introduced you to the new founder of TIAA, the new CEO, right, which is a sister. And it was a few dimes, but guess what? At the end of that 25 years, when I wanted to roll it over, it was a few $100. Let's just put it that way, okay? So it adds up. If you put quarters, you may get a few $100 at the end of it. So do it now in your 20s. Consider, of course, any type of retirement plan, do it. You could always roll it over. If you're moving from job to job, you can roll it over. And that's what the 30s is about, right? You're making career moves, you're on the move, X, Y, and Z. All those monies can be rolled over. So don't allow that to stump you. And don't cash out when you job hop. That's the bottom line. So that's your 30s, because some people may likely to do so. And if you get, of course, a salary increase, you definitely want to, again, continue to add towards your savings. If you're in your 40s, you should be firing up on an online retirement calculator to determine exactly what age you should be retiring, what does that look like, etc. If you're coming up short, start picking apart your budget and see where you can, what I call, cut the fat, right? You want to make sure that whatever you're spending, you're probably overspending. That's the general rule of thumb, right? And you don't want to waste in your 40s. So you want to know where the fat is and you want to continue to trim it. Prioritize retirement. You have to pay back your college loan. If you're still paying back your college loan, try to get that out of the way in your 30s, 40s, the whole 9 yards. and just continue adding and building. If you could get a second job without being burnt out, that would be great. The recommended would be a passive income, like an online store, like audiobooks, etc. If you do that, regardless of the action you take or not, there's always someone willing to buy. In your 50s, experts say you have 6 times your salary saved. We know that with the Great American Resignation that happened about 2-3 years ago, that may not necessarily be the same. We had baby boomers who left earlier before retirement. We had Generation X, like myself, who left early before retirement. So at the end of the day, we may not necessarily have that salary. But if you started early, you should have a nice buffer and not just one type of 401k. You should have your pension, your 401k, your IRA, your savings, your emergency plans, etc. And if we were to use that whole concept of emergency funding, those who left during the Great American Resignation was then able to tap into the emergency funding. So that's an important thing. And then if in your 60s, you should have 8 times your salary saved. And the goal is you should be waiting, I think, Social Security, retirement benefit at age 62. So it's all about now investing, and it's about diversifying your portfolio. If you get into stocks very early in your 20s, which is a smart thing as well. I didn't get into it now because we're looking at the ABCs, but you want to be more risky in your 20s, and you want to be more risk averse in your 60s around retirement. Right. So, but if you can afford it, go for it as well. So overall, 6 tips to retire from your daily grind. If you're in your 40s, 30s, and you really want to walk out of corporate and you really want to start your own business, you have to start making lifestyle changes from now. If you're used to getting Starbucks 5 times a day, reduce it to 1, bring your own coffee mug, mix your own Nescafe, Folgers from home. That can save money. Increase your income right now. Try to do additional projects if you're in a project-driven industry, sales, etc. And try to get as much promotions as possible. Move around as much as possible during that time. And make a financial plan. I believe in financial counselors. Seek an expert. Even though I know business and I know numbers and I love numbers, I'm comfortable with it. When it comes to my own, I want the best. And therefore, I also enlisted the assistance of a tax accountant or financial consultant, etc. Create passive income streams. That's what I'm doing with the business, as well as the online pop-up shop and with some other ventures that I'm looking to do. Stay on top of your plan. Make sure you work the plan and the plan is not working you, and follow the rule of retirement, which is general rule of thumb. You should be saving 25% your annual expenses. And you want to know your annual expenses really by whatever dollar that comes in, you want to times it by 12. That would give you your annual expenses. So if you have $100 a month in expenses, and no one does, but I'm just saying, if it's $100 a month, you times it by 12, and then you have $1,200 a month, a year in expenses. That would tell you on an average, what does that look like? And ultimately, you want to put your passion into practice, according to Susie Orman. So there are a number of quick things you could do. Again, start saving early, know your retirement needs. If you want to retire at the beach, if you want to retire in Paris, if you want to retire in Africa and the Sahara Safari, whatever it is in the Caribbean, you have to set that. Maximize your retirement account, diversify your investments. We spoke about that. Pay off high interest debts. There's no reason you should be in your 60s and still have college loan debts. That should be paid off in the 30s, 40s. That should always be a priority. So if you're young, make sure before you're 30, you pay off your college debt. Consider delaying Social Security if that's the case. Plan for healthcare costs, create an estate plan, stay informed and flexible, embrace a mindset of financial independence. And as I close out, simply enjoy your master plan. That is whatever you customize for you. Whatever lifestyle you have, enjoy it. because whatever you make, that's what you'll be enjoying on the back end. So that's my little financial one-on-one. Is a little bit of everything, but at the end of the day, as I stated, because we have a very diverse group and most people seem to be beyond that elementary one-on-one, we just gave everyone a little bit of everything. So I hope that helps. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Sister Cheryl. We appreciate that. You gave us some great information, and we hope everyone will take heed and do some of those things that she shared with you, because it's so important. Financial matters, because we don't want to get to retirement age and realize, what am I going to do? I have someone the other day just telling me, oh, I'm 65 and I'm ready to retire, but I don't know whether I have enough money to retire. So we have to really be conscious of it. And she went through all the ages. I love that, telling you what you need to do. So let's think about it and be about it. Not just think about it, be about it. Take the action. Thank you so much. That was great. I loved it. And let's see, we got something in the chat here. Sister Ruth said, great presentation, Sister Cheryl. Oh, and thank you. Zoom user, I don't know who the Zoom user, someone named Zoom user gave me FDMG, and that's Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy in Wilmington, Delaware, where Dr. Umar Johnson is putting that school. And I'm so happy to hear that he's doing that, because we know the public schools really suck. They're not really educating our children. I've had people on talking about that, educators on my podcast talking about the educational system. I had one I think over 100 grand a year quit and started her own school because she could not, it was too difficult and too challenging for her to educate. And again, this book by Dr. Umar Johnson, I still call him Umar Johnson. This is a very powerful book too about Black parent advocate, because we know a lot of our kids go to school and they want to throw our kids in these classes that as if they are illiterate, and they're not really, is they just want to throw some drugs on them. And he advocates for you how to help your child so they won't get caught up in that trap in the public school system. So that's a good book to have if you are a parent, by Dr. Umar Johnson. It's kind of a little pricey, but it's okay. It's worth it. I bought the book, and I have a granddaughter, but I don't have any minor children anymore. So let's move forward. And I don't know whether Barbara came in or not today, but she's going to be giving us a presentation tomorrow that's going to help us. Nina Monroe Ray says, okay, let me read what she said in the chat. Financial literacy plays a crucial role in achieving stability and securing a solid financial future by understanding concepts such as budgeting, saving, investing, and managing debt effectively. Individuals can make informed decisions that lead to financial well-being. It empowers people to take control of their finances, plan for the future, and navigate unexpected financial challenges with confidence. And I love that word confidence, because I believe in courage, confidence, and commitment. And she goes further to say, indeed, fostering financial literacy is key to building a foundation of stability and prosperity for individuals and communities alike. This was a great presentation and helpful tips. Thank you, Sister Cheryl. And I appreciate you putting that in there, Nina. We appreciate it, because every word you said in there is so true. We really need to work on how we are spending our money, because if we don't, I think Dr. Umar mentioned something about this in his presentation, 25 years from now, it could be less, we're going to have zero net worth. We're already down, I mean, collectively as a community. And I'm so glad you mentioned, Sister Nina, in here about communities, because a lot of us are individualists. Like Dr. George Fraser showed this chart on day 2, I believe, relationships. on how we're individualists and we don't think about our community and bringing it together, unified, so we can tie up some lions, not just one. I can tell you we can tie up multiple lions as long as we're connecting those dots, put them in a web. So it's so important that we do that. And those were great tips. And thank you so much for doing all that research, because that's what we have to do. We have to do our due diligence and do our research so that we will know how to handle our money. We have too much money running through our hands. Like Dr. Umar said, Gucci and Louis Vuitton, and a lot of us will spend money to go to Beyonce. Beyonce had a concert, I understand, not too long ago, and the tickets were $700. And there were people out here paying $700 to go see Beyonce. And some of them are living in apartments. They have children. They're single parents. So to me, I'm not here to judge how you're spending your money. However, think about retirement. Think about generational wealth. Think about legacy. What Beyonce's living is made. She's laughing all the way to the bank. Jay-Z and all these other rappers out here, a lot of them are not even shedding any positive light on helping the community. They're only individualists, looking to help themselves. And too many of us are looking up to these entertainers. And the White House is even inviting entertainers to come there as leaders. Entertainers are not our leaders. That's sad. That tells me a lot about this Democratic Party and what they're doing. Why are you inviting a rapper to the White House as a leader when they're out here advocating killing each other as Black people? They're advocating calling Black women out of their names. They're advocating drug abuse. That tells us a lot about the values and the morals of the White House leadership right now, because that's who they're inviting. Why aren't they inviting people like Dr. Umar, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Claude Anderson? I mean, these are some of the people that they should be inviting, but they're inviting rappers. Rappers are not my leader. And that's ridiculous what is going on. And a lot of us, okay, we lack respect for our communities. Thank you, Sister Sharon. That is so true. Oh, who's that saying, I'm here on mute and no camera? Zoom user? What's your name, Zoom user? Who are you? You're saying you're here on mute and no camera, but I don't know who you are still. So tell me who you are. Just put your name in the chat so I'll know who you are, Zoom user. And we appreciate you being here. But so since I didn't have a
it's Sister Barbara, Sister Louise, Sister Barbara Smith.
Oh, Sister Barbara, okay. Sister Barbara, hi, how are you? And today is Sister Barbara's birthday, so I know she's out celebrating. Her kids took her out to eat for her birthday, and she had shared this with me yesterday or day before. So happy birthday to you, Barbara. I hope you enjoyed your special day. And if you're like me, I consider every day as my birthday. Every day God allows me to breathe, that's a birthday for me. And that goes into the next year. And we're born in the same month. I had one March 4th, 73, and she had one today. And how old, I don't know. But anyhow, thank you, Barbara. We are so happy for you that you made another year. That's a blessing. Thank you. So happy birthday to you, Barbara. And thank you for coming in today, even though your children had come in, and I think one came from up Northern California. Barbara's in California, by the way. So we've had guests from all over the United States. Does anyone have any thing to say before I put the next not a video, I'm just going to put another slide up, and then we're going to talk about some of the things that Sandy was going to talk about, because I can tell you she was going to talk about being proactive, and I can tell you about being proactive too, because she and I have a similar mindset, so to speak. And that's good when we align ourselves together as that unit, evolving together, sharpening each other's tools. So does anyone have any comment before I start talking about the proactiveness?
I would like to make, this is Lynell. I would like to make one comment. So as Cheryl was doing her presentation and also talking about connecting the dots, and not to wait until you're 35 until you start thinking about your future and your retirement, I think in connection with everything that we have said from the very beginning, is that if you will take your children when they're very young, you can start teaching them right there about money and about savings. And so that's why, you want to get the piggy bank, the clown, or whatever. I remember when I was a child, my grandmother gave us a bank, and it was a clown. And whenever you had money that you were supposed to put aside, you put it in the clown, and he stuck his tongue out, for you to, it was a little button you press. He stuck his tongue out so you could put the money in there. And so you can make it a fun event for your children to understand or start understanding early on about saving and how to deal with money. So thank you for that information.
Yes, yes. That is so important that we start our children out young, because I remember back in the day, my kids had piggy banks, and when I was a little girl, I had a piggy bank too. I remember my grandmother bought me a piggy bank, and I throw that money in there. So I learned a little early on about piggy banks. And I have, my granddaughter has a piggy bank too. And when I go back to California, because my kids and grandkids, they're my one and only grandchild, they're all in California, I put money in her little piggy bank. I can't remember whether it's a pig though. I don't remember what it is. I just know she has a piggy, I call it a piggy bank, but she has a money bank. Let's put it that way. And it's so good that we do that. Like you're saying, the Sister Linnell, we do need to make sure that we teach our children at an early age. And because I've been teaching my granddaughter, as I mentioned the other day, about money and commodities and investing and saving. And I'm going to go and touch on some of the things that Sandy was going to talk to us about. But before, let me just share this other slide with you here, because it does relate to money. So let me just one other slide. Okay, here we go. So it was a few questions I had put out, and a lot of it has to do with what Sister Linnell had not Sister Linnell and Sister Cheryl did in her presentation, because we do need to have a money mindset. And a lot of us, I don't know whether it's fear of money or what it is that causes us to spend on things that depreciate rather than things that appreciate, like real estate and your other investments, stock market, those things, unless the stock market crashes or it crashes, but it's going to come back. And that's what we have to keep in mind. So I just put some things out here for us to think about, because some of us go to work and we say we want a career, and this is going to lead into our tomorrow's talk about business on your mind, because a lot of us say we want a career, but it turns out we just go for a paycheck and we're living from paycheck to paycheck. And that's why I was talking earlier about the book Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, who was an assistant secretary, I believe, of commerce under President Jimmy Carter's administration. He's well versed. I call him a great mentor of the Black community. And I've met him, have pictures with him and everything. And Powernomics is a great blueprint of what we can do as Black people to elevate ourselves. So I just asked some questions that we need to have as food for thought. Do you wake up daily dreading to go to work? And we know some of us do, because we know what we're going to encounter on that job, but we know we need to do something because we got to live. So it's your livelihood. When you get your paycheck, do you have a budget? And that's something that Sister Cheryl talked about. We need to start planning. Do you struggle to make ends meet? And some of us struggle to make ends meet because we don't plan. We don't have a budget. And do you think you need a side hustle? Sister Cheryl talked about that. Getting a second job. And some of us can get a second job. However, a lot of us, when we finish that one job, we want to sit up and watch TV. And what does TV say? Programming. You're being programmed. That's why they call it programming, because that's time you could spend rather investing in yourself and your family. And you may not have to struggle if you get a side hustle. I know I had side hustles when I had my children. That's when I did my real estate. When I was a single parent and I had my children, I was doing my side hustle rather than sitting home watching TV. And I still made sure my kids, I would make sure they ate, even take them to their sporting events to give them some outlet and activity, playing football and the little Pop Warner League, and my daughter in the cheerleading. And I gave them some outing as well. And do you think about your retirement years? That's something Sister Cheryl talked about. When you're young, are you thinking about those retirement years? And do you think about legacy and generational wealth? That is so important. And a lot of us don't do that. When we're young, we think can live forever, I guess, and be young forever. And that doesn't happen, right, baby boomer? So I'm going to stop sharing that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about retirement, because I'm going to tell you what I did. I graduated from college against the odds at the age of 22. I believe I had just turned 22. And I went straight out of high school. And believe me, I was not born with a silver or golden spoon. I came from a divorced family. It was 7 of us. We were on welfare, but we made it through. And being on welfare back in the 50s and 60s, I'm telling you, these people made you feel like you were nothing. They would come out to your parents' home and have you stand up in line like you were a bunch of animals and everything, and have you to your father couldn't be in the home. All of this stuff was by design. Believe me, welfare was by design to take the Black male out of the home. Because if they would come in and look in your house and look in your closet, and they were all white. I was born in Louisiana, and I'm sharing my story. And they were all young white people, because it was difficult to get a government job in Louisiana, I know, because I went and passed the test with flying colors, typed, I think, 50, 60 words a minute, didn't even get a call back from the IRS. I remember all this stuff. So this stuff is by design to keep you struggling. However, you don't have to be kept there. I'm living witness. So I left Louisiana and I moved to California. And that's where I went to school. That was the first time I was in an integrated school, was in California. And believe me, even the schools, everybody thinks, oh, in the South, you're enslaved, you're this, you're that, and the other. When I started this integrated school in California, I'm telling you, it was just like living in the South, because they did all the same things. You just went to school with white people. But they didn't treat you in school. They looked at you as if you're supposed to be dumb and stupid. They tried to dumb down your papers. If you did homework, they wanted to just shine you on, write you off as if you are illiterate. And it happened in California too, with my daughter and my sons, even with the Black teacher I had with my son. Their expectations can be low of your children, even the Black teachers, some of them, because they are ingrained with this enslaved mindset that Dr. Miles Monroe talked about, because they want you to feel inferior. And we know we are not. We are brilliant melanated people. And that's why I do what I do. I don't have to do what I do, but I do it because I want to bring our people to a higher level of consciousness because of all the things I've gone through. And we have to prepare ourselves for retirement. And I think you should start even earlier, like Sister Linnell says, start teaching your kids about money. And by the time they're 12, you should be a business person. I was a business person by the time I was 12. I had my own business. I would do hair for the people in the neighborhood. And I would do not just hair, would babysit. I had a little, let's see, I think they were like 4 and 6 or something. And the little 6-year-old boy, I was his girlfriend. And I was 12 and he was 6. And he was cracking me up at Valentine's. He told his mom, he said, you got to buy my girlfriend some Valentine's Day candy. And she bought me this. You're familiar with these little candies, these little Valentine candies that they get in the little box with the little heart. So she gave me the little box of candy. I'm 12 and he's 6, but I'm his girlfriend. So remember all these things as a kid. But I was a businesswoman, and I put that money, some of it in my little piggy bank, and I would go downtown. And don't think that Uber, for some of you young people, that Uber and Lyft, that's something new. No, it's not. White people didn't invent Uber or Lyft. Black people did. When I was a kid, it wasn't called Uber and Lyft in Shreveport. It was called a jitney. Have any of you ever heard of a jitney? Okay, so you know that Uber and Lyft didn't come about because of white people. It came about because Black people had no choice but to transport one another back and forth to their destination. And I remember we paid a quarter to go downtown and a quarter to come back. And these jitney drivers and we knew them. We didn't have to worry about being hunted down. Like nowadays, some of these drivers are molesting and doing stuff, and they had to do something about Uber and Lyft. You didn't have all that back then. The only time I remember predators coming into our neighborhoods, they were white predators coming into our neighborhoods pretending they want to ask you a question about something, and they are exposing themselves. I had it to happen to me. So they were predators coming into our neighborhood, because I grew up in an all Black neighborhood. And I tell you, I have lots of stories I could tell. And this just is talking about how money comes into play. Let your children know that when you're 12, you should have your little business. There are kids now that are making money at 12 because they came up with an idea. I think it was a little girl that came up with some lemonade or something. And then a little Black boy, these are Black kids, came up with some type of bow tie or something. So we need to teach our children. You can be an entrepreneur at 5 or 6 now, because kids are smart, except for the kids that are listening to Sexy Red and want to hear Pound Town, or whatever the heck it's called by Sexy Red. Those are the kind of kids that if their parents don't stop that nonsense, 25 years or less, they're going to be probably looking in the trash bins and so forth, or either out here strung out somewhere, in prison, wherever, because they are not being taught parenting, and they're not being taught about money and investing. And that's what we got to do. We got to prioritize and strategize. And we're not doing that. That's how we're going to plan for our retirement. Now, I'll tell you, when I started my job at 22, right out of college, and I put myself through college by working part-time, because like I said, I came from a family of welfare after my parents divorced, and I saw so much. I think I had probably a 90-year-old mind and a 12-year-old body, because I felt like I had gone through so much and seen so much until I was on a journey back at 12, envisioning what my life was going to be like. And guess what? My life is going just the way I planned it. And the things that I said I'm going to have, I spoke it. I said I'm going to live on Golden Pond because I saw that movie. What was the name of that movie? With what's his name? Henry Fonda and what's the woman's name? Katharine Hepburn. And I said, yes, I'm going to live on Golden Pond. And guess what? I'm on Golden Pond, living my dream. And this is what we got to do. We got to do these things and make sure that you start speaking it. You got to speak positive thoughts and dreams and use your creativity. And you can retire at an early age. Like I said, I retired at 55. And guess when I said I was going to retire at 55? When I was 22. I was 22 years of age, just out of college. And I said, when I went to that orientation, I'm going to retire on my 55th birthday. And I did. So you have to speak these things into existence. However, you got to put the work in. And I put the work in. And I put myself through college, through loans and working. And that's what we got to do. We got to teach our children at an early age. And I saw my parents working hard. My parents divorced when I was 7. However, my mother did remarry, but I lived with my grandmother a lot because after my grandfather passed away, we decided my grandmother would never live alone. So each one of us, somebody was always there with her, even though she was only in her late 50s. But we didn't want my grandmother to be alone. So one of us was right there. So it's not a difficult task for us to get ourselves prepared for retirement in spite of the oppressors and the racism, because we have to not allow that to interfere in our mindset and become programmed by the oppressors, because they want you to struggle and see you looking at yourself as second-class citizens and looking at lack and looking at I'm a poverty-stricken person. I never thought of myself that way. And that's why I'm giving my testimony, because I want our community to recognize you have a brilliant melanated mind. We just have to use it, and we have to speak it, and we have to put in the work, because that's what I did. And I taught my kids the same way, because I was a single parent for many, many years. And I just did not think of being poverty stricken. And I knew I wasn't going to be like that the rest of my life. So learn to invest. Once I learned about the stock market back in the 1990s, I started to investing. And once I started investing, I knew about the blue chip stocks. And I met this guy on the job. He was a stock market guru. He's a multimillionaire. And he started telling me, I didn't know anything about the stock market. And he started telling me. So I said, oh, wow, I didn't know anything. I didn't had no clue what the stock market was. And we're talking the 1990s. So I started investing. And you know what? It was a wise decision to do, because when I ended up getting a divorce, those stocks that I had invested in, they had grown. And that helped me to save my home in California. So we have to learn and teach our children. Just because we have the oppressors, it doesn't mean you have to say, I'm done. My life is over. I'm poverty stricken and I'm going to stay there. No, get that out of your mind. Take lack out of your mind and start your children off early. Get life insurance for your children, because if your children are young now, it doesn't cost you that much to get life insurance for young children. When you get old, like my age, it's going to cost you a fortune. I got my children life insurance early on, like 7 and 10 or something like that, when I learned something about life insurance. I wish I had known more. I would have got more for them. And I still pay for their life insurance, because sometimes they may drop the ball and we don't know what's going to happen in our life. And when my daughter was born, I made sure she got it. Hers is at the lowest price, and it's not expensive when your kids are just babies, toddlers. And we waste a lot of money. Like, who was that? I think, didn't you say, Sister Cheryl, about Starbucks and spending your money all at Starbucks and all of that? I mean, take that money and get your toddler some life insurance. I think they start accepting life insurance when your children are like, I think some months, less than a year. What did you say, Linnell? I can't hear you. You muted. But these things are important for us to do, so you can retire and you can have something to leave to your children. What did you say, Linnell?
I said 6 months because I remember them having one that was called the Gerber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mentioned Gerber. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what did you say, Sister Cheryl?
No, I was going to mention Gerber because I got it for my nieces.
Yes. And it's so important. It's so much information out here. And you got the coaches, you got the life management group. We should all be getting together, learning. You got Sister Cheryl, who is just dynamic. She's well-rounded in so many subjects, and she knows numbers. So I'm not really a numbers person. I am more of a, I don't know. Am I a Jenny? Maybe I'm a Jenny, you guys. Instead of a jack of all trades, maybe I'm a Jenny. So we gotta use each other's knowledge and help our next generation, because if not, 25, 20 years from now, we'll be zero network collectively. And who put in the chat about communities? Was it who was it in the chat that talked about communities? I think it was your sister, Cheryl. Sister Ray, I believe it was.
Yeah, Sister Nina
Yeah.
Ray.
See, I got a little bit of these brains left up here on memory. I used to have a photostatic memory too when I was younger. Now it's 73. It still kicks in from time to time. But we got to start using our each other's knowledge and feeding off of each other, and all that jealousy and hatred and envy and how all this nonsense on social media. We got to get away from that, because if we don't, we're going to be a lost generation of people, and it's so sad. And I call it we are drowning in that. The sadness is really sad. Go ahead, Sister Cheryl.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment also when you reminded us about Sister Nina's comment about community. I remember a few years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years, they dropped statistics on almost to what Dr. Uma was stating, right? Everyone has a plan, etc. Well, guess what? Everyone purchase within their own community. They spend within their own community. And we're the only communities that have other people coming in to begin with, but that's by design. But our own purchasing power, we elect to go outside of our community. We would still, regardless of what happens, we would still go and pay the Korean for everything, even though it might be $2 cheaper than support a Black-owned business. It might be $4 more expensive. But at the end of the day, where's the empowerment coming from? And we continue to make those decisions based on, well, it's not my business, I don't care. We don't see how it affects us directly and indirectly, because that other person will not step one dime in anyone else's community first, right? And if they do, they're going to go into the European community before we're very last, if nothing at all. I just saw a video with this Chinese guy in Africa, I think Nigeria, calling the patrons monkeys and don't want to service them in Africa. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's like we are not getting it, There's a slight turn, but overall, we still need to understand. We need to value each other's services, services. We need to allow the dollar to trade in our community. I think a dollar lasts about 1 to 2 hours within the Black community. In any other community, it's like hours or days. It's like days and weeks in their community. In our community, it might be 1 or 2 hours. And that's no good. No bueno. We have to do better.
We really do. We have to do better. And I think I've touched on the generational wealth and insurance and health insurance. That's another insurance that many of us don't have. We know Obama came out with the insurance, and we don't have health insurance, some of us. So that's another aspect. If we get sick, however, if we follow the mental health that Sister Cheryl gave us yesterday, we won't get sick as much. And we won't have diabetes and high blood pressure if we take care of ourselves. That's what we got to do. Because I don't have any of those. I don't have high blood pressure, don't have diabetes. I'm not on any medication. And it's because I remember our parents telling us we were eating holistic food back in the day, because we raised most of our foods. We had gardens back then in Louisiana, and I had a garden in California too. My kids used to call me the farmer. So think about it and raise your own stuff so you don't eat a lot of this food that's no good for you. And also, I'm close to the end, and we'll see if anyone has any questions. Trust and wills. That's something we don't look into. It's like we think sometimes we're going to be here forever. What about setting up a trust and a will so when we do pass on, whoever is left, they won't be fighting and bickering, and you have so much of that now. One person wants to take everything, and if you take the time and get the right person, and some people, it doesn't cost a whole lot to set up. In fact, you can set it up yourself if you know how. You can set your own will and trust up. But if you don't know how, don't go and get one of these high-powered attorneys that want to charge you $6,000 and $7,000, $8,000 because I checked into it and that's what they wanted to charge. And I said, oh no, I can do better than that. Found someone that is able to do it for, I think it was like 12 to 1,500 or something like that. So be mindful of those things and set you up a trust and will so that when we pass on, because we know that's a given, your children will be set and start investing. Look into real estate. There are ways you can get into real estate because that's going to appreciate. And I retired at 55, like I said, and I planned my retirement to retire at 55 on my birthday when I was 22, and I did it. And I get a pension, and I'm happy that I did what I did. And a lot of it had to do with me educating myself because a lot of times our parents, they didn't use any credit cards. I remember they just put everything on layaway. If they didn't have the cash for it, they put it on layaway and bought it later and brought it home. So we have to think of strategies in order to retire so that we won't have to worry about where our next meal is going to come from and so forth. So does anyone, I don't think I have anything else in the stock market. We've talked about that. And now they've come up with cryptocurrency. That's something else you can check into. I've even indulged in the cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and you can get shares of this stuff. You don't have to buy the whole thing because you have Robinhood, and these are credible markets that you can go into and get. You have Charles Schwab, and you have others as well. But be careful now because there are scams out here. And with these scams, you can get scammed out of it. So make sure you're with a reputable person. Like when Sister Cheryl mentioned about financial planners. I remember I had a financial planner invested $3,000 for myself and my daughter. And he wasn't monitoring my money. We lost half of it.
Wow.
And then he had the audacity to say, "Oh, when you get more money to invest, just let me know." I told him, "Give me my $1,500 and bye Tyrone." So I didn't say bye Felicia because it was a man.
Right.
And he wasn't a black man. So we got to be cautious of who we go and give our money to. That was a big lesson to me. Lost $1,500 because I had 3,000. I guess he was monitoring people that had much more, but my 3,000 was just as important. So be careful out here of scams and be careful who you choose to be a therapist as well as managing your money, because now I'm managing my own money and all of my investments. I'm managing them myself.
Yeah. Amen.
Sister
So
yes, I do want to make a comment here. And at the same time, I'm going to ask Margaret Stevenson to unmute her line so that she can help me with this information. The first part of it is because I worked in the area with wills and trust and things like that. And the one thing about a will, this is where we need to be cautious. One thing about a will is that it was created to take your money, and it was created with melanated people in mind, because there is a way and a conspiracy how they take your money via a will. When you have a will, it has to be probated. I want to speak to the other side of it as well, because I have watched some people do that too. But when you have a will, it has to be probated. That means it's got to go into court in order to do the probation. Let's see, about 20 years ago, and I think the money is higher at this time, but at that time you had to pay about 25% of the value of the estate in order to go through the probate. So if you have money in there, and this is what happened to a lot of Black people, if you have sizable money in there, nobody is going to be able to access that money if you got let's say 6-figure money and you got to come up with 25 to 30% of that money in order to access it, you will never get it. Now you thinking about a poor people, and nobody has the money that they can't even collectively come together. And more times than not, there's too much bickering and misunderstanding, miseducation, ignorance causes a lot of stuff to happen in these kinds of situations. But what is happening is you're not going to get the money. It stays there over a period of time until it's cheated to the state. So you don't have the money. None of the heirs have the money because it was in probate. And my recommendation is to stay out of probate because you'll be much better off if you use trust, or if you just take your documents that you have and you sign off to the person that you want to have, you make them a beneficiary. Okay, so in your banking accounts, at your mortgage or whatever, there are ways that you can just allot the estate to the particular people that you want it to go to, and just mix probate altogether. The other side of that is, and I have seen this happen too, is that I think you have 4 years to probate a will. If you go beyond that time, then that jurisdiction falls off of the probate. If you just ignore it, don't do anything with it, and then the probation time is terminated, then you can go and do other documents to acquire what it is you're trying to get.
Yeah, that's very helpful information. I agree with you.
I'm sorry, this one other thing. I was trying to put it in the chat, but the reason I had asked Margaret to open her line is that there is a video, and I can't remember the young man's name, but Margaret knows it. He has a book and seminar information called The Black Tax that will really set you on a brand new track. And it is how the system is working against Black people, but you don't know it because you don't know how to know it. And it's it's what we don't know that hurts us. And so, but listen to him or read his book, and you can obtain the information of all the things that they have put into place to work against us as a people. It's called the Black Tax.
His name is Sean Rochester. I put it in the text. I put it in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay, that's great information because
Thank you.
you're
That's
so
very
right.
helpful.
Yeah, you're so right about you put it in the chat, Sean.
I'm typing now.
Oh, okay. Because that is helpful. And what you're saying, Linnell, is true. And that's why it's important to get a trust as opposed to a will. Because if you just get a will alone, from my understanding, and I've done it myself, you will have to go through probate. And you guess what? A lot of attorneys will prolong it, and by the time you get done, you won't have anything. They'll have all the money and assets and everything else. Your assets will stand for the money. So be very cautious of who you choose to get your will and trust done. And just they have what they call a pour over will when you do a trust. And that pour over will add to your trust, from my understanding, when everything, if you pass away before you get everything in there, the pour over will can add to your trust.
Mhm.
So that's good.
Yeah,
for
that's very helpful. I remember when my father passed 20 years before my mom, and we had to try to figure it out, but you learn from your mistakes, because when my mom passed in 2020, I already had my name, because I was a healthcare proxy. My name was just on everything. It made it a lot easier, but you learn from your mistakes, and yeah, that was a lesson in and of itself. Yep.
I'm writing this down myself.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Rochester, the black tax, the cost of
Mhm.
being black in America. That's a good one. Thank you for sharing that, Sister Linnell and Sister Margaret. Appreciate it. So we are about we did good. We're a little over the time. Does anyone have any questions, or you want to share anything, a comment or anything before we close out? If
Yeah.
so,
I wish
unmute
I'd
yourself.
had this. I wish I had this when I was about 15.
Don't we all,
Oh
Margaret?
my
I'm telling
goodness.
you, we need, this is why this vision has been in my mind for years. Like I said, I wish, and I think that's the reason why, because of all the challenges that I went through and the things that I learned along the way that I'm teaching my children. I told them I wish I had someone to teach me, because in the summer I didn't leave my children idle. I told them, you go into the library and we're going to get some books and you're going to read, and you better do that book report, because I'm going to read every book. And I didn't. I did book reports. I just scammed through the books. I couldn't read all those books, working and taking care of my kids too. No way. But I tell you, this is valuable information, and this is the kind of information that we should be imparting on social media to uplift and elevate us. Whereas we have all this nonsense, and we have Black people following all of this nonsense. It's so sad. So we just gotta do better. As Maya Angelou say, when you know better, you should do better. And that word should is so important, because a lot of us know better, but we don't do better. The cost of, I'm writing this down, being Black in America, 'cause I love to read. I need to get this book. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any more comments or questions that you'd like to share? Because we're gonna wrap it up. We did well today. We didn't have our guests. However, we were able to impart some important and invaluable information to everyone. And we hope and thank you that everyone got some information out of it. And we had a great collaboration today. So
Lou,
with that, oh,
Louise,
go ahead.
put his name in YouTube and you'll be able to hear him do a lecture, and it'll help you to get to his book and how he breaks things down.
Okay, I'll do that, because I
Yeah.
love to research stuff. I like to be in the know.
Mhm.
So I will definitely put Sean D. Rochester and the black tax, the cost of being Black in America. And I tell you, it seems like they want to keep us by design oppressed and struggling and thinking of lack. And that's one thing I don't think of lack. And poverty. Somebody said one time, get on the poverty bus. And I said, why would I want to get on a poverty bus? I want to get on a wealth bus. So do any of you have any final thoughts, Linnell or Sister Cheryl? If not, we'll move forward. No? Okay.
Yeah,
So
because we're meeting with you on the other end, right?
right.
Okay.
So we're gonna say good night to everyone. And again, happy birthday to you, Barbara. Thank you for coming in to share with us. I think you've been here every day, and some of the others have been here every day too. And we thank and appreciate everyone. And you all have a good evening. Tomorrow we're gonna finalize. We remember that question, and everything is in the chat for the various contact information that you can contact me, Sister Cheryl, Sister Linnell, and that book that Sister Margaret and Sister Linnell shared with us. So with that said, we hope to see you back tomorrow for the final day, and we're going to see who's going to be crowned the legacy queen, Black legacy queen. So good night, everybody, and we will see you later.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
I enjoyed.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody, and thanks again for coming in. See you tomorrow.